And welcome everybody to the show. This is the Gamers We Care podcast. My name is TheCupofJoe, and today we are going to dive into the subject of game progression. Is it hijacking your brain into making you keep playing, and is that hurting your overall life, I guess, would be the best way to put it. Today I brought with me Miss Quinn from the 30th Battlefield Platoon, but we become good friends and wanted to come in and bring her along to share her experience with the vast multitude of different games that she's played over her gaming career. So why don't you say hello, Miss Quinn, and we will get rolling.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming out today. So yeah, let's we did a little bit of pre-homework on this in regards to seeing what we would like to talk about, and there was an article that we read or watched. Actually, it wasn't even an article. I read a couple articles on the subject, but gaming progression and how developers use that in a constructive way to guide you through these games that we all love to play, and also how they exploit that in ways to keep you playing, and how that has some parallels within real life, and being able to spot these things in your own life and course correct around those things. So what did you, just overall impression of the video that I sent you, what did you think of it?
I was really surprised. I didn't really realize the psychology dove that deep into video games. I've played video games for, probably dating myself here, but since Nintendo existed, that's how long I've been playing video games, and I never really thought about the hold that they had on me. It was just an escape for me, or something fun to do with my friends.
Yeah, it is it's, you never really realize the psychology that goes inside of it until you really get in there and read an article, watch a video about it, or something along those lines. So from my impressions, there were a couple of these different systems that I was pretty well aware of that happen to gamers whenever they're trying to, finish their quest or go along with their question, or go along with whatever game they may be playing, whether it's a quest game or a more level ranking system along those lines. So there's kind of two different types of progression. There's more of the quest types, which is more of your RPGs, saying, Skyrim, Fallout is a good one. Just the really first player is really the games that have the progression when it comes to that. Then there are more of the ranking progression system, and that is more of your first person shooter types of thing, Battlefield, Call of Duty, anything in which there is a ranking system within it that you have to progress up. And then when we get into it a little bit further, we will talk about the multitude of different types of ranking systems that they now have in these games, because they've gotten pretty in-depth and deep. So I just want to kind of define those two different things that we were going to be talking about before we really dived into the 7 different things that they identified in this video. So the first one that they really spoke on was rewards. Everybody likes a reward. Everybody likes a lollipop after they get a shot in the arm. Everybody likes getting a gold star on their paper when they do a good job. It's where we have reward centers in our brains for a reason. And it's to replicate good behavior and replicate good, what's the right word? Good behavior, as well as when something went well and you get rewarded off of it. So there's the vast majority of games have a rewards system in it, whether it is a reward for a specific task or a reward for using something for a considerable amount of time within the game. Just thinking about, we've been playing the Cold War Alpha a little bit today and yesterday, and seeing that they have kind of stopped anybody from really progressing. It is an alpha. There's not a progression system really built within it as of yet. But I was actually watching a video earlier today from, I believe it was Nero's Cinema, if I can remember correctly. There's so many of the YouTubers out there that I watch, but he was talking about how people have noticed a few things when they've been playing the game in which there is progression is really turned off, but it's actually not in the way that you think it is. It's basically just kind of hidden behind whatever it is that they're wanting you to play, because people have noticed that there actually is one in-game achievement that you're able to get, and the whole, the reward system, the whole thing that flashes up in the sky saying you've done this thing and everything like that. And people were noticing that it is, it's actually pretty much exactly the same thing as the Black Ops 4 progression system. So he made the point of saying that they really have just had the same progression system and the same reward system within Call of Duty for a long time. There's really not too many that have strayed away from it. A couple have on the progression side, but not on the reward side. And they were just pointing out the fact that it's probably been a fairly copy-paste job from all the way back in Call of Duty 4 when this whole kind of ranking thing started. There was ranking before that, but it was pared down, not as, especially the reward side of it. There really wasn't rewards other than just like, oh, I did that thing. And that really is, it's a good thing to be able to progress for, but it's not really the things that we're going for now when it comes to these rewards, especially within the game of Call of Duty. There's so many different things that you can get rewarded for based inside of the game, and it is really based in neuroscience and neurochemistry as far as dopamine. You get a dopamine hit every single time you achieve something, and you see, oh my god, I got this reward, and I got this emblem, and I have this camo, and I have whatever it is that they're giving you for completing a task, or for sometimes just using the weapon for long enough. It is really built into the system. So, can you relate back to any type of games that you've played before that has a reward system, and tell us a little bit about those?
Well, the reward system that I think a lot of recently is the one in Battlefield 5. And it's kind of similar with COD, where, if you get a headshot now, you see the little medallion flash up in front of you. And to me, that's an immediate reward. That's something that is encouraging you. You're getting your, like you said, the dopamine response, and you're like, oh, I did a good thing. There's a little ribbon. There's a medal on the screen. But I find for myself, especially with COD and even in Battlefield 5, some of the rewards are so far out of reach for a player such as myself even, and I'm sure a lot of people have struggled with getting those rewards too. Like the streaks alone in COD, I feel like I'm waiting a majority of the time for those streaks to unlock because I'm not a strong killer, but in a game like Battlefield 5, I can sit at the top of the scoreboard because I can keep everybody healed and keep everybody moving systematically through the game.
Yeah, it's a great point to say that while they are both first-person shooters, they both have very different types of progression and reward systems in the form of your score on the leaderboard. There is a heavy emphasis in Call of Duty for kills. It's an arcade shooter. That is what you are supposed to do in these types of games. However, there are different game modes in which you can really strive to the very top of the leaderboard by doing more objective type play, which is for some people really what they enjoy doing rather than just going and slaying everybody out on the digital battlefield or where the map that you might be playing. So it is a different philosophy in the game developers' eyes, I feel.
It definitely is. I think that COD really focuses on individual gameplay, whereas Battlefield has always tried to strive for the community feel. You're fighting a great war in Battlefield, whereas in COD you're working with a very small group to get to the end goal.
Yeah, that is the main difference between the two of them is just scale of the game. There is a lot of similarities as far as, obviously the first person shooter aspect of it, but there's very basic things as well that are just completely different that you get rewarded for based upon your actions in the game. It is much more of a everybody always says that Battlefield is more of a thinking man's game, and Call of Duty is just a bunch of crazy little kids running around just trying to rack up the most kills, which to a certain degree it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. You have much more you have a much more individualized experience when you are playing Call of Duty than when you are playing Battlefield. If you're playing the larger modes, of course. If you're playing one of the smaller modes, then not so much. But even the smaller modes, it's 8v8, whereas COD is 6v6. And I think when you really look at it, last year with the release of Modern Warfare, they tried to emulate Battlefield because they realized a few different things. Battlefield 5 had a rough go of it. Let's just be nice about it and say that. And it is the progression and the different types of things that so I got off track there. Individualized, you can affect Call of Duty a lot. Battlefield, not so much. You really do have to, and they have been trying to get more of that type of gameplay in Battlefield where it's more of a team effort. It's always been more of a team effort in Battlefield. It's not, yeah, they have TDM, but that's just one game mode, and it's not the game mode that the game is known for. Whereas I think Call of Duty kind of is known for just that game mode of TDM where you just go around and kill everybody. There are the objective-based game modes, which are far more exciting in my eyes, but it is, and with Call of Duty trying to weasel its way in, not really weasel its way in, but kind of capture that aspect of a larger Battlefield with their ground war game mode that they introduced and their very large ground war one. I forget what it was exactly called, where it's 50v50. I mean, they have surpassed the Battlefield games thus far in total players playing against each other. It's still 32 versus 32. There are rumblings that in the next Battlefield it'll go up to 128, so 64 versus 64, which I think will be good and bad for various reasons that we probably don't need to get into. But it's always been that the Battlefield community has always relied much more on teamwork aspect, and which is probably why, as I've gotten older and my FPS skills have reduced, I've gravitated towards those games a little bit more. I am far better at Battlefield than I am at Call of Duty at this point in my gaming career, as it were. So it makes sense that I would enjoy that type of gameplay better than running around on Call of Duty.
But you're also reaping the reward of playing with your group of friends when you successfully win a map on Battlefield.
Yeah, so the feeling of a win on Battlefield it's just different than a feeling of a win on Call of Duty. At Call of Duty, it's a very short skirmish. It's a very short battle. It's not a long drawn out half an hour conquest or 45-minute conquest match where it comes down to the last ticket and you're on the edge of your seat. Like, nobody respawn, nobody bleed out. It's just a completely different type of game. And as well with that comes a different type of reward system, but a very similar one in the in-game actions where you can get medals and everything like that. In-game action rewards are very similar, but the overall reward of winning is a very, very different experience. It appeals to different people for many different reasons. So next they talked about immersion and being immersed into these games and how it is used in various different ways to keep you inside of the game, keep you playing, keep you on. And immersion is much more of a role-playing game phenomenon. This is oh my god, I am so immersed in this story that I need to play the next chapter. I need to play the next level. I need to continue moving on in this game. Otherwise, I'm gonna feel unfulfilled. So, perfect example is working through I'm going to start playing the Gears of War 4 campaign. And I remember back when I was playing the original Gears of War and the Gears of War 2, there were a couple of nights where I really didn't go to bed until like the morning because I just wanted to keep playing the campaign and keep progressing through it because it was such an enthralling story. So that's just an example of how they really fully immerse you in it, but also there is other types of immersion within video games. What do you think what do you, after seeing that article and watching that video, what were some of the other ones that you thought were in there as well?
Well, when I was watching the part about immersion, I kind of had flashbacks to being a kid sitting in front of my Super Nintendo playing Mario Kart. And I remember, driving the little car around, and I can actually remember myself leaning and turning along with the car. Like it was completely immersing myself into this game. I also had a lot of time playing Star Fox, and it's the same concept where you're looking at this little 3D model of a plane that you're steering around the map, but you're so immersed in it that you feel like you're in that plane moving around and shooting down all these targets.
Yeah, I think we've all felt the immersive aspect of it, in which you are playing a game of the sorts where you're driving or you're flying or whatever it may be. I mean, even in most of the first-person shooters that I play, when I'm getting shot at, I'll duck out of the way, even though I'm not really getting shot at. It's just I'm so immersed in the game where if a Panzerfaust is coming right at my face and I move my character right, I will physically actually move right. And that plays into, whoopsies, got out of focus there. Okay, got really out of focus there. Apparently, it didn't like that at all. Oop, there we go. It came back. So, the ways in which they can immerse you in the games are very different, and they've progressed throughout video game history. I mean, going back and thinking about Mario Kart and how cartoonish it is and not close to real life at all, but yet you were still incredibly immersed in it to the point of you actually mimicking the physical body motions that you were doing digitally on the screen.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened to my connection there. I don't know how much you missed or how much wasn't heard, but I did talk about getting lost in Star Fox as well. Did you hear me talk about that?
I think I think it cut out right at the end when you were just about done.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different types of immersion that you can really get into, but that's my biggest experience with immersion within games is that. In regards to linear progression within a game where you're playing either third person or first person, and you're playing a campaign of sorts or just the regular story mode, there is also color coding, in which they use the different colors to denote certain things. So the example, or one of the examples that they gave within the video, was how Mirror's Edge uses red to denote the places that you need to go next. It is very open world, but it's very track driven as well, in which when you see red, it means I have to go there and I have to touch that red usually. So if you're going through a stairwell and you have to jump and get into a vent that leads to the door or to the outside, to the roof or something like that, that will be highlighted in red. Or if you're jumping off of a building and you need to land somewhere, the landing pad will be red as well. And I thought it was very interesting that they would also do that on games in which there are quote unquote secrets, where they would use a color, but it wouldn't be the main color. And it would also kind of almost hide itself, or at least that's how I heard them, or how I envisioned it when they were explaining it, is it's a color that you're going to recognize that it's a secret, but they hide it. So it is really a secret. Well, that was just kind of an interesting thing that they did, and I wanted to see if you had any thoughts on that or examples.
Yeah, I didn't really understand the whole color concept for the secrets, but I have played a few games where actually the first thing that comes to mind is Rayman Legends. So it's a side-scroller game, a lot like Mario, and anytime that you were kind of near a secret, you'd hear this little voice calling for help, because of these little characters that you have to rescue throughout the game. And there was never really anything else that was directing you towards where that secret was, and it was often hidden behind like a tree or a bush. There's no obvious path. And I mean, this goes all the way back to, especially for side scrollers, Sonic the Hedgehog, Mario 3, and dropping behind the walls to get behind the board to find like the secret whistles to move on to the next levels. Like, there was never anything that really stood out to me in color. It was always these little little sounds that were telling you where to go.
Yeah, and a great way that they integrated that into Mario 3 was, I believe it was only the white area blocks that you could get behind. Yeah, it had to be on white. Is that correct? I feel like
it did have to be on white, and then it kind of got funny because not every white block had a secret behind it.
So you had to find the right one within the level that was white. So it had even more possibilities to which one it could be, and there was really no way to test it, or there was really no way to know unless you tested every single one.
That's right, unless you were like, really hardcore and looking for all those game strategies that we've seen in that the Netflix. I can't remember what it's called.
High Score.
Netflix special. Thank you. That's the one.
Yeah, that was quite the series. I would highly suggest anybody that is out there that's listening, if they have not seen it on Netflix, it is a very good, interesting. I mean, I learned a ton about gaming history all the way from arcading, because that is gaming before games came into our homes. Was everybody went to the arcade, as well as the different styles of gaming within, whether it's arcade or the text-driven ones. I knew there were text-driven ones, but I didn't realize how immersive they really could be and how much of an industry there was in them. That was quite an interesting episode that I really enjoyed. So, yeah, go watch that. Very, very good. If you're into gaming history, definitely. So, the next one that was mentioned was the near-miss effect. The near-miss effect is saying that, oh my god, we just lost that round by 1 point, or we just lost that by a half a millisecond, or you almost caught the thing that you needed to catch to go into the secret room in a game. And that has a lot of... The point of that one really is to keep you playing. That one wants you to say, oh my god, I almost got that. I'm going to play another round because I might get it next round. Or, oh my god, that came down to the wire. That was such a good round. I want to play the same team again. And that is a lot more of the competitiveness of the game and wanting to be the best within the game, especially within the actual multiplayer games. But there still is, to a smaller extent, the near-miss effect within the role-playing games and the quest-driven games as well.
Yeah, I think the near miss effect really goes hand in hand with the rewards that we were talking about at the beginning of this. Um, if you narrowly miss progressing within your RPG game, or like you mentioned, winning that match or losing that match with at one point, like you want to go back and try again because humans we have that drive to win.
Exactly. There really is this. They've obviously done a ton of research, and when I was looking for the subject that I wanted to talk about today, there's paper after paper after paper written by psychologists about this subject, and I would imagine that a lot of these game developers either contract with or have an on-staff psychologist that is with them, explaining to them, all right, this is a good idea, that's a good idea. And it seems like they're always coming up with new ways in which to keep us engaged within a game. There's just so many different variations in which you can do it, and some are more subtle and some are more in your face. Very much so.
Well, I think the near miss effect can be really detrimental too, because I mean, for myself, with COD, Modern Warfare is really the first one that I ever played. I did try Black Ops 3 for, all of a couple of matches and got absolutely destroyed in multiplayer and thought, nope, I'm never touching this again. That's enough. And Modern Warfare, I've really tried, but a lot of the near miss effects that we're talking about here, they're skill-based driven. And in a game like that, where I can't go out and slay people over and over and over, it can become really frustrating and make me not want to come back and play that game or take a really long break from it.
Yeah, that's the double-edged sword of these types of games in which you just are not that skilled in. I mean, there's games that I'm just not that skilled in, and hence why I probably don't play those games. So the near miss effect for me always comes in with the more competitive side of myself, where, oh, we just lost that round by 2 tickets, and okay, we've got another round, so what are we going to change next time? It gives you that intrinsic motivation to want to do better in either the next round, or if you just lost, the next time you play whoever it is that you were playing at the time.
Yeah, and that's definitely where I could also take that for myself. Like, I do have a competitive edge to me, and it comes out more in my Battlefield than it does in COD. But yeah, it's just getting that win that gives you that reward again. It's all going. I feel like a lot of this is boiling back to the reward of succeeding, and like we're talking about now, the near miss. Okay, what did we do wrong that we can correct to get it next time?
Exactly. So we kind of touched on this one a little bit, but the next one that they had in there was about Newtonian engagement. And the reason that they went with Newtonian engagement was they said that one of Newton's laws is that a object in motion will stay in motion until it's acted upon to stop. And that is the type of progression that game developers love, because that's the type of game progression where you are playing so much that you need to keep going on. You have to keep progressing. You cannot get off the game until you reach that next level, until you max level out that weapon, until you get to the point where you are at a stopping point within the campaign or the storyline in which you're like, all right, I've had enough, I'm good. And they're becoming more and more and more adept at not giving you that chance to be like, all right, I'm at a stopping point, I can stop here. And the way that they do that is they do the carrot in front of a horse trick. They say, okay, you just finished this, but then as soon as you finish it, yeah, you get the rewards, you get whatever it was that you'd got, but then they dangle 8 different other things in front of you, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's like a really easy side mission. I can knock that out in like 10 minutes. Why don't I just do that? And it becomes this vicious cycle of, okay, I just finished that, but oh, there's this next thing. Oh, there's this next thing that I can do.
Yeah, I think this really plays into the whole immersion thing. You get lost in the game, and they keep baiting you in with all of these other things that you can do. Like I mentioned earlier, Final Fantasy and their cinematic movies. If I knew what was coming or was anticipating something coming, I would stay up for those, next 2-3 hours trying to get there to make sure I saw that before I had to go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. They are just masterful at this point about being able to do that. They've really figured that one out, and they really have it down to a science. And you really don't see any games that don't have that type of system within them. You just don't really see it anymore where they don't have it in there, because let's be honest, game developers want you to keep playing the game. And I think that is also, or I know that's also why a lot of these more story-based games, your Skyrim, your Grand Theft Auto, your Red Dead Redemption, a lot of Rockstar games tend to do this, where they've added an online element to their storyline-based mode, where before you played the campaign and that was kind of it. It was open world, so you could kind of do side missions and stuff, but there was a definite endpoint where you had done everything within the game, and they needed a way in which to keep you playing until their next title, because, I mean, let's face it might be a decade before we see the next Rockstar title coming out.
Could be.
So that kind of actually leads us into the next item in which they talked about, which is completionism. If you're one of those people that has the OCD factor within themselves, completionism can be a really tough problem to deal with. And this used to be, and still to a certain extent, is very much so my type of personality when it comes to these games that are coming out nowadays. Is I want to 100%. I want to finish everything. I want every single camo. I want that one thing within the game that I can show other people, being like, oh my God, I've played this game so much that I have Damascus, even though I don't, because I don't really care anymore, because Modern Warfare, whatever. But actually, it was funny. Last night I was watching a YouTube video, and there was a commercial that popped up saying, and this is actually a really pertinent to this kind of subject, in which now there are services out there in which you can pay somebody to play on your account or help you within the game to get those completionist rewards, such as Damascus, such as gold, platinum, things along those lines. And the further along the progression line it is, the more money it costs. So people are literally making money off of people wanting to complete things, but they might not have the time to be able to do that. Somebody saw that as a great opportunity to make some money, and I'm sure they are making a lot of money, because there's a lot of people out there that have that completionism mindset, but just don't have the time to be able to accomplish these things, because I gotta think that you have to play hours, days upon days, if not weeks, to be able to complete some of these things within these games. And then sometimes, we saw it in Battlefield 5, it's just not really possible. It is, but you're going to have to spend a long time doing certain things to even try to accomplish these things. And ultimately, that's what they want. They want you to say, okay, I'm going to not go outside today because I need to get the gold handle on my boy's AT rifle by getting one-shot kills at 100 meters, when you really can't one-shot kill anybody at 100 meters with the boy's AT rifle. So making those impossible goals is not a terrible idea, even though people complain about them all the time.
Yeah, I think, Battlefield 1, which is where I really started my Battlefield journey, I didn't have any trouble unlocking guns, completing rewards for them. progressing in the game. And because I didn't have any trouble progressing in the game with, weapon unlocks and skin unlocks and things like that, it kept me coming back to become, to satisfy the completionist within me. Battlefield 5, I don't have the desire to grind to level 500 anymore. I do know somebody that is working towards that goal, and all the more power to him. But that's something that for him, he can't let it go. That's his completionist. And Battlefield 5 kind of has some of those, like you said, the 100-meter shot with the boys AT. We all know from experience that Battlefield 5 has some unrealistic completionist goals that just won't let you finish that gold skin or whatever else is unlockable in that game.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great way that they've really figured out in which they can keep somebody really engaged within their game. If they put a goal that is so hard to get, yet there are going to be those select people that are willing to grind for it, whether it's a time-based thing or if it's a objective-based thing, then it's not a terrible idea to put that in there, because you're going to spend more time on the game. You're going to see that it's right there. You know, oh my God, I got 9 out of the 10 kills within the capture area that I needed. All I needed was one more. Oh my God. And then it goes back to that near miss effect. So a lot of these also play in tandem with each other and play off of each other.
Yeah, they absolutely do.
So, and the final one that they talked about is navigation tricks, and this is more of your quest type mode, your storyline type mode. So you can see that as we're going through these, a lot of these have very similar traits, but different outcomes within the games that we play. So navigation is, and it's also very similar to the color coding, in which it's giving you a set point on the road to the next thing that you need to do, and it's giving you a great big giant structure to really look into and say, oh, that thing is important, I need to go to that. You see this in Skyrim, you see this in Fallout. They have these giant things within the map to draw you to them, saying, oh, that's a big settlement. There's going to be a ton of quests, or there's going to be a ton of people there, and I can interact with them, and maybe they give me something to do, or maybe they say, hey, I heard about this thing, so why don't you go over there and check it out? And so the funny thing was that this is very much so modeled after Disney World and Disneyland and all of the Disney theme parks. Well, theme parks in general, but they kind of honed in on Disney. Saying, and the industry name for them is weenies. Not really sure why it's called that. Don't remember them explaining why it was called that.
No, they didn't explain.
that's the name. And so if you've ever been to an amusement park, there are, the roller coasters are giant, and they're the thing that usually stick out the most. And those are the most popular rides within theme parks usually. Nowadays, there might be some other stuff that's more drawing, but those for the longest time were the big draw for these theme parks. It's like, I want to go really fast and I want to go really high and I want to not feel like I'm really safe for a couple of minutes, and I can deal with that. Especially I really enjoy theme parks, and it is something that I definitely try to get to more often than not. So the correlation to the game is obviously the navigation aspect of it. That's why it kind of goes into the color coding. Maybe, the settlement that you're going to has a certain color on the map, and that means there's good loot there, or there's good quests there that will get you good loot, or get you some in-game achievement that you've been wanting, so that you can say, oh my God, I did this in-game achievement, and be able to tell people, hey, I did this thing. That makes me cool, right? A lot of people really think that in-game achievements correlate to real life achievements, and they kind of do and they kind of don't. It depends. I think that's the biggest thing. And, you know, this whole show is really based upon mental health and how mental health affects gaming and how it can be detrimental as well as beneficial within people's lives. So the kind of trying to bring this all full circle into talking about, you know, the psychology of games, it's very telling and showing that they really figured this out. They have a clear way in which you can affect people's behavior just by doing these very small, simple little steps and including these small little mechanics within a video game. And I've always and have kind of been thinking about, is there a way in which you can use these types of progression systems within your own life to say, I'm going to accomplish this thing, and then I'm going to accomplish this thing. So really the biggest one that I kind of see that would really play into this is kind of the reward system, obviously, as well as the completionism aspect of the game psychology as well. Rewards are always a great way in which you can motivate yourself. Okay, I've finished all of my homework for the week. I have Sunday night to be able to reward myself by playing video games, if that's your reward. Or if you want your reward to be, I am going to purchase something. Or rewards don't even have to be a physical thing or a monetary thing. They can be, I'm going to reward myself by going and doing a meditation by myself because I really enjoy that, or going out for a walk in nature because that's something I just don't get to do because I've got a 9-to-5 job in a cubicle. Well, most people aren't doing that anymore. So I guess it's a good enough example. So being able to set these rewards up and say, okay, this is my goal. How am I going to get there? And laying out, saying, okay, you know, my most recent goal, which has kind of been stalled, was to apply for and take a esports business management course online. It's supposed to be in person, but, you know, the Rona happened. And so it was going to be done online. And so I had a clear set path as to how that was going to happen. It's like, all right, well, I need to apply. And what does it take to apply for college anywhere or any type of schooling for that matter, past your lower grades and everything like that? It's like, okay, well, I need to fill out the application, and along with that, I need to gather all of these things to support my application, saying, yeah, I'm smart enough to do this kind of thing. So being able to set up a goal, and it doesn't even have to be a big goal. You know, going to school is kind of a bigger goal. It can be, I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to play video games less, perhaps, if that is really something that you've noticed is cutting into your life and is kind of detrimental. Setting up those small goals in which you are going to be able to achieve them, but they are significant steps within your overall mission to complete the overall larger goal. That's always been something that I've tried to do, and I've actually just honestly never been that great at it. It's something that I really do need to work on, especially on certain things that I might not particularly want to do that you have to do.
Adulting.
Pretty much. So there's just so much that can be learned from the different types of psychology within video games that you can really apply to your own life and be able to put yourself on kind of this more linear track in which you can say, okay, here's my 10 goals to get to this next one. Where am I going to go from here? So this can be, if you're trying to create a Twitch channel or a YouTube channel or anything along those lines, you can say, okay, here is my goal. I want to have 200 followers by the end of the month. How am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? There's some clear steps that can be taken. A lot of it is kind of subjective, and you basically need to be able to adapt very quickly when something isn't working, but you have to try. That's one of the bigger things about it when it comes to creating a Twitch channel or a YouTube channel, is that people will try for like a week and then they'll give up because they're not like, oh, I feel like I should have 1,000 subs by now or 1,000 followers by now. I did these 6 videos. Why haven't I taken off? Why am I not Tim the Tap Man yet? Why?
I think the point here too is that, we mentioned how Battlefield 5 had some really unrealistic rewards and goals, and humans have a tendency to set unrealistic goals and rewards for themselves as well. And that's where you won't get the completionism if you have this giant goal sitting in front of you that's going to be really hard for not just you, but anyone in general. If you want to take the example that you're working on here with, starting a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel, you're not going to have 1,000 followers, after spending a week on it. You need to take small steps and take small things that happen as your rewards in order to get to the completionism of your greater goal.
Exactly. And having that clear set expectation of success without the hard work to get put into it is just unrealistic. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't see that until they've already given up on themselves. They're like, they don't have the self-introspection to say, why am I not succeeding? And I was actually watching a video by Harris Heller of Alpha Gaming on YouTube that was talking about this. He did a really great video about going from 0 to 1,000 viewers on his Alpha Gaming channel, which was really illuminating. And he does a lot of stuff. I've shared videos with you about what he does and everything like that. And he's very realistic in his videos, saying this can be a job. This is not an easy job. It might seem like it's easy. It's not. It's a lot of hard work. And if you're not willing to put in that hard work, then you're not going to succeed unless you get a break somewhere. But even with that break, if you don't capitalize on that break by, getting shouted out by a larger streamer or a larger YouTuber or anything like that, then you're going to see a momentary spike. Things are going to look great. Things are going to be amazing. But then it's going to drop right off because you don't have the content to back it up, essentially.
Yeah, and I really think that, we're talking about mental health here and everything too, and you really have to look at the psychology behind video games and how much they use to keep drawing you back over and over and over again. Is that healthy?
I mean, to a certain extent, I think it is, but to a certain extent, I think it can be very detrimental. It's, you've heard the horror stories of people wasting their life playing a video game, but then there's almost this carrot of, oh my God, I could get discovered. If I'm the best, then I'm going to be able to create something out of this, which is true. It's a perfect example is somebody that has there's kind of like two polar opposites of the ability to be really good on whatever platform it is that you're trying to succeed on. Is, am I providing content, product, whatever you want to call it, that is going to draw people in more, or am I just doing the bare minimum, don't really have what I need to continue progressing with it and moving in the opposite direction of, there's basically two ways. You can be really good at your content. You can be really good with everything, production side and everything like that. But if you have a very flat personality, then you're not really going to go anywhere because people aren't going to be engaged. People aren't going to want to watch. People are just going to be like, oh, well, they're just playing games and not interacting with chat, or they're just playing games. The only way in which you can succeed and have a less than attractive personality that I've seen is be really, really good at the game. That people will watch people that are dull, dry, not entertaining if they're really good at a game, because it's no longer the person that's engaging them, it's the gameplay.
Yeah, that's true.
And the people that can do both and have a high level of production and skill, Dr. Disrespect, need I say more? He's one of the biggest.
Yeah, he's he's definitely somebody that brings controversy, but with his controversy, he's very entertaining.
Exactly. And I was more talking about his over-the-top character that he has created, as well as the top-tier gameplay that he's able to provide on the screen. It is, if you really wanted to do like a meta-analysis and go over the really big top streamers out there, the biggest are the ones that are the best at the game, but also they have that entertainment factor within themselves, within their personality. And that is something that people should realize and recognize.
Right. I mean, you wouldn't keep visiting a page of somebody's YouTube videos or their live Twitch or any kind of feed like that if they weren't entertaining you on both levels. I mean, I can play the game myself and I can watch it, but I'm not going to I'm probably going to watch it for about 5 minutes if you're not engaging with me or engaging with your audience at all.
Right. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is not engaging with their chat, especially if they're doing a gameplay channel, or they're doing a channel in which engagement with the chat is a very important thing that they need to. First of all, they need to be able to engage with anybody that comes into their chat, especially if they've got, very small viewership or anything like that. But also, I think one of the biggest reasons that Tim the Tapman is so big is, he's really funny, but he's also incredibly engaged with his chat. He's constantly talking to them. He does have a giant audience to talk to, which is helpful. Talking to the void is kind of bad. It's not bad, it's just tough to do. And the way that he's able to roll all three of these really good, really fundamental aspects into his live streams shows why he's so successful. He interacts with the chat a lot. He's got a great personality, and occasionally he can pull off some pretty nutty things within the games that he plays.
That's very true.
And so really the kind of coming back to everything and really taking a kind of bird's eye view of it is that psychology is such an important part of the gaming industry, whether you're just a participant in it as a consumer playing the games, or whether you're a participant in it with content creation, with it being a professionalism, with it being a profession, career type thing. So we are just about time, but it was a good conversation talking about progression systems within the game, and then trying to really relay it back to trying to set these progression systems up within your own life to be able to progress through and accomplish your goals.
Yeah, I think we were able to really circle it back to life. It's okay to have video games as a part of your life. I don't think it's healthy. I admit I've spent many hours, long hours playing games, and it probably wasn't the healthiest choice. But then, the next day I set those small goals for myself and say, hey, I'm going to run further today. Or, hey, I'm actually going to eat my 3 meals today, that kind of stuff. So it's definitely relatable in both aspects.
Definitely is. So I want to say thank you all very much for coming out this afternoon, this evening, this morning, wherever you may be watching this from or in the future. But that is going to do it for this one. Next week, it will be Mizzy's turn for the hosting duties. So I'm sure that she's going to have a great guest for that. But until then, this has been the Cup of Joe for the Gamers We Care podcast, and we will see you later.